All right. So we are started. All right. So we're running a tiny bit late, but I know there are a lot of attendees who have signed up. So I'm just going to give everyone a minute or two to join. If you are coming in right now, we're going to take a minute or two. So please feel free to grab a drink, grab a snack. We'll be here for a little bit. So we're just going to wait a few minutes for everyone to be able to enter, to join, to get excited to join us. So just bear with us. We'll get started in 1 or 2 minutes.
I'll also get something to drink.
Good. And in the meantime, I'm going to be playing some music for you all. Hopefully you like it. Hopefully it doesn't upset you. And for those of you who have already joined, if you want to pop in the chat where you're joining from today, that would be great. Really curious where everyone is based. And yeah, also, if you feel particularly motivated, want to tell us exactly what you want to learn today. I can't guarantee we'll hit it. I hope we will. But it's a good guideline to work off of. Ooh, Turkey, Jordan, Kurdistan, nice. Thank you guys. Excited to have you all here. Oh, Mexico City, nice. US, wow. Got quite an international crew here. Very excited. Yemen, nice. For those of you guys who have just joined, we're going to get started in about a minute. Feel free to pop in where you're joining from. Also would love to hear what you want to learn today. Of course, we have some ideas that we definitely want to cover, but if there's something particularly that you want to learn from Youssef over here, I guess actually over here, I'm not sure how you see it on the screen, please drop it in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Very excited. All right. All right, Youssef, should we get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, everyone, welcome. Really excited to be having this session with you all today. We're going to be talking about ChatGPT. Everyone's talking about it, I know. We're also going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it in the context of your CV. I'm not sure how many of you here, well, hopefully you guys are in the process of writing a CV, revamping a CV, editing it, or are just generally curious of how to apply ChatGPT to your CV. But we're going to be covering all of that today. We have a few things that we want to get through. So I'm just going to go through a few housekeeping things first. We're going to be covering CV fundamentals, how to use ChatGPT for your CV, where does it actually fit into the whole CV question, applying prompts, so using ChatGPT and what to ask ChatGPT when it comes to your CV, and how to customize those responses. And that is super crucial. We're going to be talking a lot about that today. And then we also want to leave some room for you guys to ask questions. So the session is really based, what you get from the session is really based off of your responses, your questions. So as we go through, I would love for you guys to leave your questions in the Q&A section. You should be able to see that on your screens. There's also a chat section. So if you have a comment, something that you would love to know from your other audience members, please feel free to also leave it there as well. So some quick introductions. I'm Adrie Smith. I'm the head of content at Recoded. Even though I'm now working more on the communication side of things, I actually used to be a tech recruiter. Youssef and I chatted about this, and it was a long time ago, but still, I have worked in recruitment and I've been working in tech for the last 6 years. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from. Youssef, do you want to give a quick introduction to yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Youssef. I'm from Morocco. I lived most of my childhood there, and then I moved to Germany when I was 17, studied there, worked there in an agency first, so doing tech recruitment, and then I joined Getir in the past 2 years and got promoted last year as a senior tech recruiter. My official title is talent acquisition business partner, but it's just easier to call it recruiter. Everyone understands. So hopefully I'll give you my perspective on what I look for when I look at CVs, and also some ideas into what people like me look for. So hopefully that will be useful for all of you.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for that. All right, so I hope a lot of you know about Recoded, but if you don't, I'm just going to give you a quick spiel about it. We are a EdTech organization. Primarily, we are aiming to create sustainable careers for underserved youth, particularly in the Middle East and Turkey. So we run boot camps. We have self-paced courses online. So if you don't know about us, check us out online. We're running boot camps all the time and releasing new courses for different regions. So if you're interested in upskilling, keep in touch and look on our website. All right, and just one more promotional thing. So we have a monthly newsletter called Newsletter, and it comes to your inbox every month. If you're interested in subscribing, we'd love to have you. We're sending events like this all the time. I've popped a link into the chat, so if you want to subscribe, please feel free. Some of you might already be subscribed, and that's wonderful. But if you're not and you want to attend more events like this, that's the way to do it. And last but not least, I covered some of the housekeeping, but just good to cover it again. The chat is for conversations between your fellow attendees. If you have a question that you would love to hear from other people, we'd love to hear that there. But if you have a question for us at the end, please feel free to drop it in the Q&A. We're going to get to the questions at the end, and we do want to leave enough time. So we will be trying to get through that. And also, finally, if you want the recording to this webinar, you'll be able to find it in the Open Study Hub a week from now. We also update people via our newsletter that it's available there. So another nice incentive to join us there. But you can also just keep checking on the Open Study Hub. You'll be able to find the recording there. Nice to have you from Buenos Aires, Argentina. All right, so we're gonna get started. I do have a poll for people just to quickly answer. I'm curious as to how many people are using ChatGPT currently in your job application process. If you've never used it, that's also totally fine, guys. We want to hear from you. I'm curious as to how many of you have already started experimenting, what kind of success you've had. If you want to drop that already in the webinar chat, we'd also love to hear how you're using it. If you found some interesting applications already, we'd love to hear from you there. All right, so let's get started. We're going to be starting with some of the more fundamental aspects of your CV. I want to run another poll, but let's just have a look at where we are currently. Youssef, can you see the ChatGPT poll that I've launched?
Yeah, I can, and I'm not so surprised about the findings. So about
the cover letter.
Half the people haven't really tried it out, and most of people are using it for their cover letters, which I am surprised about. I would love to talk about that a little bit more about cover letters. So maybe we can open that up later on in the Q&A.
Yep. Yeah, I'm also, 38% of you have not used it for job applications yet. So good that you're here. A lot of CV and researching. Interesting. All right, let's move on to our next poll, because we do want to see where we should be focusing in the next section. Share results. For some reason, I cannot move on to my next poll, but I will try. All right. So we have another poll from you here. Because we're going to be talking about the CV fundamentals, we really want to know first where we should be focusing. So in your opinion, what are the top 2 CV must-haves? Like, you can't write a CV without these things. And that's where, that's where Youssef is going to focus his attention. So your vote matters here. We definitely want to hear from you. All right, we see a lot of work experience, links to profiles, education. Interesting, not a lot of interests or hobbies. All right. All right, if you haven't voted, please submit your vote in the poll section. You should be able to vote and add at least 2 as we're speaking. We're going to give it another couple of seconds and then we're going to close it just so that we can move on.
Not a lot of people are fan of pictures, I guess.
Honestly, I'm kind of relieved about that. I personally, I'm not a fan of photos on CVs. Youssef, maybe you can give a better opinion, a more professional opinion. Tell us.
Maybe you can start by saying why don't you like pictures on CVs?
Well, from a company perspective, it discourages diverse hiring and enables bias.
You will probably find out who that person is by the name or by just looking at their LinkedIn profile. So if the bias is going to happen, I think it's going to happen either way.
Yeah.
I think the picture can be a competitive advantage for some people because it can be very good or it can give a bad first impression. So yeah, I do believe it can lead to bias, but I think bias exists either way. So there's no right or wrong answer here.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on. So I'm sharing the results up here. Clearly, there are a lot of people who are say, of course, the work experience. I think that's quite natural. Is there anything here that surprises you, Youssef? Anything that you think is a must-have that, maybe is falling a little lower on the scale than you thought?
I would say links to profiles. So if I think about a junior software engineer or someone just coming out of a bootcamp, I would expect to see their GitHub profile and actually see what their projects look like. So assuming everyone has correctly mentioned work experience, but in this case, probably most of our audience does not have work experience. In that case, I would like to see, what your projects look like. So that's great. Let's put the projects, but also it would probably be a good idea to have some links. What I've seen from the best junior software engineers is are like very, very well designed websites, right? So you are a full stack developer, you're a front end developer, and you are probably investing some time into whatever you're doing, right? The hiring process. I would love to see your skills in action in an actual website rather than just on the CV.
Right. So links rank high up then.
Yes, I mean, especially for a junior profile, if you don't have too many things to show, you can actually show your work. So you have the example of a UX UI designer, right? So I would love to actually see the design. So if you have the links on the CV, it will be much easier for me than having to copy paste or look for it. So that's one thing. The other thing is I can see people don't really focus on the education. They're probably right. So most companies, and I would say mostly startups, don't really care about where you studied. They will take a look at it once they see that the work experience is interesting, but that will not be the very first thing they look at. So if your profile fits the basic requirements, they will look at the education, but it will probably not play the biggest role in the decision. I've had certain cases where, and this is mostly with people with a little bit more experience, that didn't have any kind of education, so they didn't go to university, they're self-taught, and I would invite them, and I would find out that they're self-taught while on the call. Like, I haven't even realized that they didn't have education. So this is something that is definitely true in the tech industry.
Mhm.
People don't look at education that much. And I mean, if you have used recoded or done a bootcamp, you kind of already know that, like, people can come into the tech industry with a bootcamp or with self-teaching. So it is definitely something that I can confirm.
Yeah, so you would say including, while education should be pretty basically included, further education, let's just say like boot camps, really specialist courses that you attend for specifically those job skills should be included.
Yeah, definitely. So the way that this sample CV is done is pretty good. So you have the very first thing I look at is probably going to be the contact information.
Mhm.
The reason why I'm looking at contact information is I want to find out the location, right? So for certain roles, the locations is quite important. And even if I'm hiring for a remote role, I still want to know where you're located.
Mhm.
Because that will determine many things. That might determine the salary, that might determine your time zone, it might determine lots of different things, right? So it's quite, I would say, like, it's one of those basic criteria. And if you are applying for a role that is not in where you are located, so maybe you wanna give all your chances, so you want to take your chances, so you would avoid putting contact information so that the recruiter contacts you, and then you can give them that information if you feel that your location will be a problem. I'm going to give a concrete example. If you are applying for a role in Europe and you know that that company relocates people, but you want to take all your chances, try not putting all the contact information or the location. If they really like your profile, they will contact you, or they will find out by going onto your LinkedIn. What that does is kind of just it gives you a little bit more chance, rather than me. I look at your location, I see you're not where I'm looking, I'm not even going to take a look at your CV. So this is just a quick tip in certain situations, but generally I would always advise to apply for the roles that actually are offering a job wherever you are. So that's the first thing I would look at, and then obviously, like, the projects, the work experience are quite important. Like I said, like, links would be very, very useful. So if you're telling me you have a what is a design project, so I would love to take a look at that project. What does that look like? And what you could also do there is give a lot more information within the link, right? Think about the CV as this one place that takes you to many other places. It's like a link tree. So you can put very, very basic information and then make it appealing so that the recruiter is attracted to that link and clicks on the link. Once you click on the link and you see, wow, this guy has done so many, really interesting designs, etc., that could give you that could make you stand out in that. So that's what I would say on the second point.
All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I mean, I can go through all these, or do you have any comments?
Yeah. So my question is, like, I think I'm sure many of the people here are familiar now with what a basic CV looks like. I'm curious, especially in the context of this event, what are the most common mistakes that you see, and is ChatGPT involved or not? And could there be a way that it could be involved?
Yes, absolutely. So if I take the example of your project, right?
Mhm.
You can take one project, and the description on the CV can look 1,000 different ways. Okay, it depends on how you present it. And so I mean, I cannot read exactly what's in that project, but basically what you write in there will determine how valuable that experience is for the recruiter or for the hiring manager, right? So this is actually where ChatGPT can help, or any AI. It's to help you write it in a way that is quite um, interesting or attractive. It is to write it in a kind of a sales way rather than write it as just mere facts. So you might have heard, if you read articles about how to write CVs, is to make it quantifiable. So this is one of the things that ChatGPT can help you with, to give you that idea, and also focus on achievements rather than like just say, these are the tools that I've used, or this is what the project looks like, but really try to write it in a way that will make you stand out and will make your profile a bit more interesting.
All right. Should we move on to the next segment?
I would actually just add one more thing. So
Sure.
on the statement, so the mission statement is something definitely that you can get some help from ChatGPT, and we're going to try it out together. But basically, anything on your CV that you see is writing, that's something that ChatGPT can help you with. Probably not the formatting, the design. So that's something that you need to figure out yourself, and there are so many tools out there that can help you there. But in terms of like writing, how you present things, that's something ChatGPT can help you with.
And Youssef, just before we move on to the next section, there are two questions here. I was wondering if you could just take a second to answer those, and I'll cover the next slide.
Should I answer it live? I'll answer it live. So I have a very good CV for an entry-level jobs. Is there any effective tool to make my CV ATS compliant? I would say, what do you mean by ATS compliant? There's nothing really that any ATS like has certain conditions to it. I see these kind of pieces of advice around on TikTok and Instagram and things like this. You have to beat the ATS. There's nothing really to beat. The only thing is that some ATSs will filter candidates out or CVs out based on certain criteria. But those criteria are important for the job. So if you write your CV well and you are targeting a job where you are actually a good candidate for, there's nothing really to beat or to make it more compliant, right? There's only one thing I would say generally is I like the PDF format, but I heard in a previous session that some companies prefer the doc. So it will really depend on the actual job that you apply for. So be careful about like what. Sometimes they give you, in the application questions, they tell you which format to choose. So make sure that you send a CV with that format. Also, there's one thing. Try to make your CV not too heavy. So if you make it heavy in terms of like bytes, if you make it heavy, it will just take a little bit more time to load, and it might be something that puts you in a disadvantage. But really, it's not. It's not. This is not going to make you get hired or not. It's not really that critical.
I'm just going to move on to the next section because I do want to spend time on how we can use ChatGPT. Maybe this visual design question you can answer in typing.
Yeah, we can, or we can do that in the QA and
True.
at the end.
True. All right. So given all of these components for your CV, where does ChatGPT fit in? And I think Youssef, you already said it, but anything that is in text, which is a lot of your CV, hopefully, ChatGPT should be able to help you out. And think about ChatGPT as a teacher rather than your writer. It's really, really great for inspiration. So if you're struggling with actually writing out what you did at your last job, or what you did as a bootcamp student, or what you did in a design project, ask ChatGPT what are the most common tasks, and look at where you can fit your experience in. Also with achievements, same goes. And ask a lot of should I questions. I think, Youssef, when you and I were talking, we asked ChatGPT a lot of, should I include a photo, for example? Should I focus on the design of my CV? But as we're going to kind of practice, and as we're going to see in our next segment, you have to give it a lot of details. It's not going to be your writer. It's not going to give you, and also it's not always going to give you 100% the one answer. It will always give you options. And that's why you need to feed it context. So the more context you feed it, the more powerful you'll become. And again, a lot of you may be sitting down, really putting off making or updating your CV. ChatGPT is not going to solve this for you. You still need to take the time, you need to put in the effort, you need to say no to those distractions and actually get it done. ChatGPT actually probably won't save you time necessarily, but it will help you create a better, more authentic CV. So that being said, we're going to go into some of the basics of using ChatGPT. Youssef, if you want to take it away from here.
Yeah, so once you understand, actually, I want to stress again the importance of understanding what ChatGPT is able to do for you and not. That is crucial to understand, and that should be your basis. But once you start, there are some basic guidance. So here you can see. So editing here means that you should never, and I want to stress this a lot, never just copy paste anything that AI gives you. The reason for that is because it's quite easy for someone like me to read that and figure out that this is not something that a normal human bootcamp graduate would write. Generally, what I've seen is sometimes, AI, what it does, it gives you like a very nice structured answer with introduction, body, advantages, disadvantages, and summary. Never write your CV that way. Try to make sure that you edit and that you make it in your own style. And this is the last one. Make sure that the actual writing that you put in your CV matches what you would write. So what you would say. So also the kind of vocabulary that you use should be similar to who you are and what you're about. One way to do that is to read your results out loud and to see, like, is this something I would say or not. Mm-hmm. Use it as an editor, basically. For example, if you already wrote something or you started with something, you can always ask ChatGPT to write it in a more concise way or in a different tone, with more words, less words, change the words with bullet points. So you can use it as something that helps you edit the way that it's written. And the bit about questions is what Adrie said earlier. The fact that you can use ChatGPT as a teacher, right? So that's basically the one place that has the most knowledge. So you can ask ChatGPT what you think should be, for example, that question about design. This is something that ChatGPT can answer. and it will arguably give you a better answer than myself, because it will give you the advantages, disadvantages, and at the end it will tell you, this is up to you. I would recommend this, but it's not there's no right and wrong answer.
And if I can jump in there 1 second, we will also we'll go into this, but the more context you feed it, the better it becomes. So for example, Youssef, if you ask him whether or not you should focus on the design of your CV rather than, but add more design elements, he'll say, well, it depends, right? It depends on the kind of role that you're applying for. And if you ask ChatGPT, should I include design elements on my CV? And then say, I'm applying for a UX UI role at a startup company in Iraq, for example. It will give you a much more contextualized answer than perhaps I could give you an answer to, or Youssef could give you an answer to. If you ask him if you should include design elements on a CV for Getir, I'm sure, Youssef, you would be able to answer that super easily. But a lot of these questions have a lot of context. It depends on the hiring manager, it depends on the country, and it also depends on the kind of role and company that you're applying for.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. You can, there's one thing I wanted to say as well, like always use, if you're using, and we're going to be using it in a bit, use the same page, because the way that ChatGPT is made is that it keeps taking the context from earlier questions. So don't change the chat, stay on the same chat and start by saying who you are, what you're looking to do, and then start asking questions. And you can build on those questions as you go. This is one of the key elements that you should take into consideration.
Yeah. All right. So we're at some practice time. This is probably one of the more exciting parts of our session. We want to make it interactive. So we're really depending on you to engage with us and also to ask questions that you want to see us discuss the ChatGPT answer to. So of course, if you guys want to hear about is design of the CV important, give us your context, like what kind of jobs you're looking for, where you're applying from, and drop this into the webinar chat, not the Q&A, and we'll try to get to a few after we've done a few prompts that we want to take you through. Let me just set this up real quick. My window seems to have disappeared. There we go. All right, there we go. All right, everyone can see the ChatGPT, nice little chat over here. So, Youssef, we wanted to start with one of the most basic questions that you can probably ask ChatGPT, and this is also where we started when we were looking around. What do I need to include in my CV? So let's let ChatGPT do its magic. Hopefully this should not be the first time that you've seen ChatGPT write all this information, but basically we've just asked it exactly what you should include in your CV, and it's given us a lot of the information that we've previously shared with you. It's giving us some tips. That's also new from even earlier. All right, Youssef, if you are first time creating your CV and you receive this response, what kind of warnings would you give our audience here? So, or how should they use this?
The first thing is this confirms what you talked about just a couple of minutes ago about being specific, right? So these are all very good pieces of advice, but for example, publications and presentations that will probably not apply to you, right? So if you give it a little bit more context, it will give you better and more concise tips. That's basically the idea.
Oh,
and it says it there. So it says it there. You have to tailor your CV for each specific job. emphasizing the most relevant skills and experiences. And it says also that it's a general guideline.
Yeah. So in order to make it less general, I've asked it, and what about writing a CV for a tech company? What's different about CVs? So here we have certifications and training right after education. I don't think it included that. Oh, no, it did. Let's see.
The only difference there that I see is hackathons, the number 8.
Yeah.
And then, open source contributions. Instead of publications, it's technical publications. So it's just a little bit more specific, but it's still quite general. So it doesn't you haven't asked it or told it what your level is, because a CV at a CTO level will be very, very different from a CV at the graduate level. So that's one thing that we can add and see how it changes.
And let's just see. I'm curious to know if anything changes if you're applying for remote position. So I said, does anything change if you're to a remote? Again, this is something that you can use ChatGPT as like your own personal Youssef while you're writing a CV. Of course, I think a real Youssef is better, but this is good if you don't have a Youssef on demand, let's just say. All right, so let's just see. It asks you to highlight your remote work experience, collaboration tools. Indeed, this is also, I mean, Recoded is completely remote, and we do like to see how many collaboration tools have you used? Do you use Slack? Have you used Asana before? Lots of tools that we use that not every other company uses. Self-motivation, time management. Yeah, and there are some important soft skills that you might also want to include as well. All right.
I would add here something that maybe it didn't say there, but if you can also, in your experiences, if you have an internship or even a project, you can mention that you've done this project in a remote setting and you are not located in the same place. Just having already worked remotely will be a little bit more advantageous for you, to get an interview.
Yeah, very true. All right, so I'm going to give ChatGPT a prompt. Specifically, if you are struggling, I think we had a few people who were struggling, or not struggling, but like thought the most important part was your work experience and making sure that that stands out in your CV. We're going to give ChatGPT a lot of context, of course, like a made up context here. So I've just graduated from a front-end development bootcamp, transitioned from a sales role going into front-end development, applying for a junior front-end developer position in Turkey. What accomplishments should they include on their CV in their work experience elements? So let's just see if that gives us something specific and valuable. Let ChatGPT do its magic. And this might be relevant for a lot of you here who are transitioning from a different kind of role to another. I think that's particularly a very tricky CV to write, especially because you don't have work experience in that area necessarily just yet. So what can you include? Let's see.
Yeah, so I can see, for example, point number 4, the idea of transferable skills. So I mean, a lot of people coming out of boot camps have had experience in another industry, and I don't find it. Most people have not done the job of really trying to understand how to sell what you already know in a way that adds value to your profile rather than decreases value. So think about this. If you have absolutely no experience and you're starting from scratch and you've done a bootcamp, is it the same as someone who has done sales and has done a bootcamp and is looking for a job? Probably the person who has some kind of experience in sales will have a little bit of a different kind of skill set to the other person who doesn't have that experience. So this could be a competitive advantage rather than something that you should shy away from, right? So, but at the same time, if the other person who doesn't have the sales experience, maybe they have more experience in collaborative projects, or they've done some open source contributions, they have like a very elaborate personal project, or whatever it is that they can stand out with, right? So it depends on who you are, whatever makes you a little bit unique. This is what you should try to put in your CV. And I would also comment on like the prompt that you gave. Asking ChatGPT what accomplishments you should include. That will not give you what you should write. That will give you some ideas, right? So these are ideas. Once you see these ideas, for example, I see highlight any personal projects or assignments. Okay, great. So you can tell ChatGPT, following your advice, I would like to highlight this project that I've done, and you explain this project in just a normal descriptive way. And then you ask it, could you please put this in a concise 3 sentences bullet points for my CV, something like this. And then you can start seeing, okay, now we're getting somewhere. It will give you some kind of quantifiable way of with achievement, etc. So it will adapt what you're saying to how it will look like in the CV, or how it should look like on the CV.
So I have an ask for our audience here. If any of you have done a project that you want to include in your CV, but it isn't there yet, and want to detail it for ChatGPT right here in our webinar chat, I will copy and paste that and I will put it in and see what it can give us. If you want to do that, just take a minute or two just to detail it, and we can work with it. We can see what happens. In the meantime, Youssef and I provided a nice prompt that does something similar. Again, it's text that I think a lot of people struggle with, their mission statement or their bio, the like 2 to 3 sentences right at the top of your CV that kind of gives a recruiter an idea of who you are as a person, a professional, and tells them kind of like the byline of why they should hire you. That's super difficult. I work in content, and that's difficult even for me. So let's see how ChatGPT can help someone. Again, we want to give as much information as possible. So this is following Youssef's tip. You can, if you include it in the same conversation, it's going to use the information that you've already given them. So for example, it already knows that you graduated from a front-end development bootcamp, you've transitioned from sales, you're applying to front-end developer roles in Turkey. So we're just asking it to provide a short mission statement for this person based off of all that information. Also, tone matters. Again, we're going to include a little prompt here to say, I want to come off, so appear as passionate and knowledgeable. So that will really change the way that ChatGPT writes. And we want to give it an aspiration. So this person eventually wants to become a full stack developer. So let's see what ChatGPT gives us. All right. So this is a very long bio. Again, this is a great example, Youssef, right? That you shouldn't just copy and paste, especially the first thing that ChatGPT gives you.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I have this experience with anything. I try to write. I always use ChatGPT when I write some articles, or I try to write some blog posts, and it always gives me more material than than I need. And all I do is just, could you please write it in a more concise way, or can you please write it in however many words I want? What you can also do, and maybe we can try that, is say, please bear in mind that I want my CV to be only 1 or 2 pages. Can you make the summary, shorter? Something like that. that's the beauty of this AI, is that it really understands things in a deeper way, so you can really explain these things clearly, and then it will give you something.
Okay, so obviously this is still pretty long. I would even suggest to make it more specific, to say, can you make this 1 to 2 sentences? Sentences. Okay, also, again, this goes back, Youssef, we picked up on this earlier. The language is pretty formal. And I think this, personally, I think this sounds like ChatGPT. I think you have almost a little bit of a radar. So keep this in mind, guys. Recruiters and hiring managers will have almost a radar at this point of ChatGPT or not. So adding your own style, adding different kinds of prompts. So I'm going to show you examples of 2, is going to be really crucial to get a better result. Of course, you're still going to need to edit it. And this is why we talk about ChatGPT as a source of inspiration rather than your copywriter, for example. So I think this sounds very formal. I'm going to give the example of being non-native English and actually wanting something a little bit more simple, something that I might actually write, for example, let's just say.
We also have a recommendation to try to write, just make it shorter.
Yeah. But again, be specific. How much shorter? So still, all right. And I think we wanted to ask, it still seems a little fluffy, let's just say. So maybe we can make it a little bit more straightforward. Let's just see.
That's not too bad. What I would do, like personally, once I get to this point, is take that and then edit it myself.
Yeah.
So how I would edit it is basically, for example, if I see a word that I wouldn't use myself, like for example, well-rounded, maybe I can change that word specifically. You can just say, grow into a full stack developer. Create, like my goal is to create, you can say my aim is to create, or you can change some words there to a certain type of vocabulary that you actually use. So that's what I would say here. But yeah, you can keep tweaking it until you get something really that you like.
Right. So also what I want to point out here is, because we've given it so much context, it gives something very specific on your CV that I think is really nice and relevant for the companies applying to. In this scenario, you're a front-end developer, aspiring front-end developer, applying to roles in Turkey. I think actually adding, I'm excited to bring my skills to a tech company in Turkey is actually pretty nice. It does show that you are very focused on, this is what I want to do, this is where I want to be. And I think that's a really nice thing to add to your mission statements. I think somebody just asked, can you ask ChatGPT just to make it shorter? Yes, of course you can. Better results, you'll ask for something very specific. So 1 to 2 sentences shorter. I want this to be 1 paragraph. I want this to be 3 paragraphs, whatever it is. Just be specific, because otherwise you're going to have to ask it to continuously make it shorter and shorter and shorter. All right.
We actually have a prompt there on the top. Like, should you include interesting or fun facts in CVs? Like,
all right, Greco, we're gonna test it out. Let's see what ChatGPT says, and then let's have a competition with Youssef. So what will you say? Has some good advice. Comprehensive advice. I mean, as a hiring manager, I agree with a lot of this. Of course, yeah, I could tell you if I got a CV in my inbox that had captain of my soccer team for a position, it just wouldn't make an impact with me. It depends on the hiring manager, so know who you're applying to. If your hiring manager definitely shows an interest in soccer, or it's something you can definitely talk about, then I would say it's probably a pretty good ad. For me personally, it's not going to really add anything. It's just going to take up space on your CV. So ChatGPT did kind of add to that, but it doesn't tell you what to do. That is kind of the issue here. So you yourself have to find out what to do. And in my opinion, that would be looking up the hiring manager's profile on LinkedIn to see, yeah, what kind of relevant points you can strike with them. Youssef, what would your advice be?
I would say, everything that I see here in the answer is it's quite accurate. I would add, I agree with you, Adrie. It's not actually going to make or break your application. So it might take space on your CV. So if you have more interesting things to say, definitely focus on those. However, in the spirit of trying to make yourself stand out, it might be something you want to point out. So if you are, a captain of your football team and you've done something really cool. So let's say, for example, you were in a league, and once you joined as a captain, you won the league at the end of the year or something like that. I would write it as one sentence like that. So since I joined, we managed to be first or something like that. So I would still add it, but again, I wouldn't invite you for an interview just because you were the captain of the soccer team. It could be a very nice way to bond with the recruiter or the hiring manager based on their interests. But again, it really depends on the company. One last tip I would give is the best way to know whether something works or not is to actually ask. So if you get the chance to interview with the company, at the end of the interview, try to ask them, like, what do you think about my CV? What do you think about mentioning this? Was this relevant or not?
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably the best way to know whether this adds value or not.
Yeah. All right. I'm conscientious of the time. I do want to do a few core takeaways from our ChatGPT experience. We already shared a lot of these. So remember to edit the responses, guys. Super important that you don't just copy paste stuff from ChatGPT. Even read the results out loud. Think about whether or not in an interview you would actually say those things. And Youssef, you had some good advice around backing up your CV.
Yes. So what I told Adria earlier is basically if you write something on your CV, for example, about a certain project, and it looks quite amazing, I would expect, if I invite you for an interview, I would expect that you explain that in the same exciting or amazing way that I can see on there. So make sure that if the project looks really great, you are able to explain it in a way that is also really great. So here practice will be very important. So try to prepare. How do I talk about this project? How do I position it in terms of who I am, what did I learn from it, etc., and try to make it more storytelling. But this would be another session probably. But if you can just get this idea in your mind, that make sure that anything you write, you have a story to back it up. You can really explain this in a lot of detail. I have seen so many times, and unfortunately this is quite a bad impression on the recruiter, that someone writes a really exciting kind of project, and then I ask them and they say, oh, I was just there, I just participated, and they cannot answer anything about the project. You participating doesn't mean that you shouldn't include it, but at least be ready to answer any questions about it and to know everything about it so that you can defend yourself. So that's one thing that I would add.
And as you saw from our ChatGPT experience, ask it questions. So if you have a question about adding design elements, or whether or not you should include color or not on your CV, ask it, and also give it context. So I'm a junior UX UI designer, and I want to apply to this company. Should I include color? Should I include graphic elements? What kinds? You can use it as your teacher. And additionally, ask it to style your tone of voice. So basically, say you want to come off as friendly, you want to come off as knowledgeable, you want to come off as professional as well, totally acceptable. But ask it to style it as a result, and then you can edit the responses. All right. So I know we have a lot of questions. I'm going to skip this one because we do have quite a lot of questions coming through, and not a lot of time. I'm going to extend the session by maybe like 5 to 10 minutes, just so that we can get through a few of these. So how about it? Youssef, do you want to start with a few of these?
Yeah, so is the visual and design important for the CV? Yes, absolutely, it's very important. The way that it's important is basically if you write in a very small font, for example, or the structure is too tight or whatever it is, it's not going to make me want to read it. It needs to be very simple, and it needs to be readable for the recruiter, for the hiring manager. So the design does not need to be amazing, like it doesn't need to be professional design. It needs to be simple and easy to read. So if I'm looking for an information, it's very easy for me to find it. That's the most important thing. But generally, yes, visual and design is very important. How do you cover gaps? I guess you mean gaps in terms of like not working at that time. This is an age-old question. There is no right or wrong answer here. There are various ways. The way that I actually had a gap of about a year, and my gap looked like it was 3 years because after that gap I went to university. So what I did on my CV is to actually write. I took some time off and I wrote what I was doing at that time, which was taking care of family and playing some tennis and building an online business. So that was that case. If you can explain what you were doing at that time, that's fine. If in your case, for example, you're talking about a gap in your in the past, and it's not related to tech, I would not even care about it. It doesn't really matter. The recent gaps will be more relevant to kind of answer and explain rather than old ones. So about location, should I include location in my CV if I want to apply for a job in my current location? But if I want to, I shouldn't include my place. Right? So what I meant, it might have been, it might seem a bit confusing what I said. Basically, yes, always just put the location. That's the simple way. What I meant is, if let's say you are applying for a role where the location is not where you are currently, and you really want that job, to give yourself more chances, it might make sense to send a CV where you don't have the location, or mention on the application questions that you're aware that the job is somewhere else, or that you're ready to relocate or whatever. This is in the case that it's a hybrid role or it's a on-site role. If it's a remote role, the location doesn't really matter. What you can explain is give a little bit more context into like how much experience do you have with remote, with working remotely, etc. But yeah, that was my comment.
Mm-hmm.
Written a CV, but I want to make it specific, better for a specific job. Examples: there are websites that compare my CV with the job to improve it, such as keywords. I don't think that the information you get from a website will be 100% accurate. What you can do is use ChatGPT to give you some ideas. So what I would do is say, put information about of the job description, so the tasks, and then put some information about your professional experience. Input that onto ChatGPT, and then ask it, can I improve something here, or is there something that I can do better or include more? But this will only give you some inspiration. The fact is, you need to research about the company rather than just look at keywords and skills. It's really about the job description will not give you everything that will actually be useful for the role. So try to do some research on the side in order to make it a little bit more specific.
Hey, Youssef, there are a few tech questions below, one from Greco that I'm quite interested to hear you respond to. But are there any other digital tools besides ChatGPT that you can recommend?
Other digital tools, you mean digital tools to use for your CV, or
I would assume from your CV.
For your CV,
I would think Grammarly for English.
Sorry?
Grammarly for an English check.
Yeah, definitely. What I was thinking of is something for design or for formatting. If you're not a designer, don't try yourself to design a CV. It will be much easier to just use a CV editor tool. But I would recommend first to write all the content, try to put it just in written format, and then take that content, put it in a CV editor. Canva, yeah, I saw that Canva has really great CV templates. But yeah, any other tool would be fine. There's no right tool, the best tool for something. Just try to figure out what you need, and then do a quick Google search and try it out. Yeah. I might give you a tool that might not work for you. So just actually try to try different tools and see how it goes. But hopefully this gives you a little bit of an idea.
There's also one up here that I'm quite interested in. Are there tools that are AI detectors, and will they affect my application process if the company found out that my CV is made by an AI? I think this is a very interesting question. And again, follow the piece of advice: never copy and paste from ChatGPT. You have to still write it yourself. Use your own language, apply your own experience. If you use the generic stuff, it will come off as generic anyway. So whether or not they have an AI detector, I don't think they do. I don't think people are running them. Youssef, I'm not sure if you have experience with this.
I've listened to some podcasts about this. There is no AI detector. You can't detect, especially if you edit it. How can they detect? There's absolutely no way to do that, especially if you're taking that, you're changing it, and then you're putting it on your CV. There's no way for them to find out.
However, again, I want to flag here that as hiring managers or recruiters, everyone has a little red flag that appears when you see something that is a little too generic, something that could be written by ChatGPT. Yeah. So you basically never want to have your hiring manager or your recruiter think, was this written by ChatGPT? So really put your own flair to it, put your own experience in, and don't use the generic stuff. This is if you take away anything from the session today, guys, that should be it.
Yeah, I can give you a very concrete example. Once I always ask in a DevOps engineer role, I ask, what do you think the role of a DevOps engineer is? Once I got a very, very long and nice answer with very nice structures, and then I saw the experience, and this guy has had absolutely no experience in DevOps. So I mean, it was a quite easy to detect where the answer came from. Whereas if he had taken some of that and written it in a different way, and mentioned something from his own experience, then I could have given him a chance. But as soon as I saw that this was like written poorly, yeah, just basically copy pasted, I lost trust in that candidate. Like just don't do it. It's not it doesn't come across as professional or trustworthy.
Mm. There's one last question that I do want to answer that's specifically related that I think we can really help with here. It's the last one. It's about transitioning from healthcare into UX UI design and tailoring their CV. And I think this is really important because we used a line of questioning with ChatGPT that fits this scenario super well. Ask ChatGPT how you should tailor your CV and what you can include from your past experience, giving it as much context as possible, saying you're transitioning from healthcare, you're going into UX UI design. Tell it what you've studied, how you've become a UX UI designer, and ask it, what can you include from your past experience in your CV? Any last questions you want to answer, Youssef? I'm conscientious of time here.
What is the best way to grab a recruiter's attention and stand out from the crowd? This is I think a good one. I would say take some time, sit down with yourself, and think what makes me who I am. This could be, if you're coming from healthcare, this could be this. If you're a captain of your soccer team, this could potentially be this. If you're really good at design, invest some time to make your CV really nicely looking. If you've done so, I had one guy who did 10 projects instead of 4. That everyone is in his bootcamp did 4. He did 10, and that way he stood out. Maybe your story could be something that you stand out with. Just explaining, like, for example, why did you take that bootcamp? This could be even just one sentence, but if that's one sentence is written in a way that differentiates you from the others, or that gives you kind of a real, it makes you a real person and makes me, respect you or be really interested or admiring, then this could be really in your advantage. So anything that you think basically makes you unique. In my case, like me personally, obviously I'm a recruiter. This is what I do, but my passion is in languages. So I always mention in my CV that I speak 6 languages. This is not in any way really not like a concrete advantage, because all I speak all day is English. But recruiters and hiring managers always remember this is the guy that speaks 6 languages. It could be a skill. It could be something, and anything. You have to do some work and think about it.
Well, I would argue it shows that you're a good communicator. Shows that you pick up things at scale. I think it's a good extra one to include. So think about it beyond just the extra thing that you want to include, and think about how you could apply it in a professional context as well. So I do think that's also important. All right.
Yeah, that's a good shot.
So we've already run over. Thank you all so much for coming. It's been wonderful having you here, hearing all your questions. I hope that you guys can take away something from today. Edit your responses from ChatGPT and ask it a lot of questions. Please, if anything, remember this. It can be a really great teacher. Yeah, I'm curious to see how you all apply it. Use ChatGPT wisely and responsibly. And when in doubt, ask a real person. I think that's also really important to remember. Ask a real person sometimes. I just want to thank you so much, Youssef. This has been a really fun session. I feel like I've also learned a lot about ChatGPT and how it works and what it can do and how crazy accurate it can be. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for joining us and adding your expertise also to the mix. I think that's always a real benefit here.
Yeah, thank you for organizing and inviting me, and hopefully, yeah, people have benefited from it. Now it's time to actually sit down and do the work. There's there's no substitute to actually sitting down and doing the annoying work of writing your CV. Everyone has to do it. So
And it's not going to save you time, sadly. It's just not like you will spend more time on it, but hopefully you'll get a better product. You'll get a better product.
yeah.
All right. Thank you all. Hopefully see you all in the next one. Subscribe to our newsletter. This recording will be on the Open Study Hub in a week from now. You'll be able to see it there. Otherwise, you'll get updated in the newsletter when it's available. So yeah, we'll stay in touch. Thank you all.
Bye bye.